Shyam. Radhe, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Radhe, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Radhe, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Govinda, Gopala, 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 Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Radhe, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Radhe, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Radhe, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Radhe, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Govinda, Gopala, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Govinda, Gopala, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Govinda, Gopala, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Govinda, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Gopal, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Govinda, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Gopal, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Govinda, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Gopal, Govinda, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Gopal, Radhe, 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 Radhe Shyam. Radhe, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Govinda, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Gopal, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Govinda, Radhe Shyam. Gopal, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Radhe, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Radhe, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Govinda, Gopala, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Govinda, Gopala, Radhe, Radhe Shyam. Radhe, Gopal Radhe Radhe Shyam Radhe 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 Shyam Radhe 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 Shyam Govinda Gopala Radhe Radhe Shyam Govinda Gopala Radhe Radhe Shyam Radhe 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 Shyam Govinda Radhe Radhe Shyam Gopal Radhe Radhe Shyam Govinda Radhe Radhe Shyam Gopal Radhe Radhe Shyam Radhe 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 Shyam Radhe 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 Shyam Radhe 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 Shyam Radhe 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 Shyam.
Welcome to Satsang. Welcome to another beautiful evening here on the banks of Mother Ganga. And such a joy to have this opportunity to come together in Satsang, together, to drop deeply into truth and to rise together in that truth of ourselves, of our consciousness, of our oneness. So happy to have you all with us for these satsangs. The first question we'll take says, I've been following your meditations and satsang for a while, and I enjoy them. I'm training to be a psychotherapist, and I'm also a yoga teacher. I aim for a holistic approach, but combining spirituality and psychology is challenging. What is your approach in combining them? I don't think about it so much as a combination, as that sort of implies that they're completely different and that you need, a little of this and a little of that, and we'll combine them. Rather, if you think about it as they're two different streams that work together to take us into the highest and the deepest truth of who we are. If I want to bathe in the waters of Ganga, let's say, so we'll call the river Ganga the spiritual approach. This sacred, flowing, divine river of life and liberation. So we'll call that our metaphoric path of spirituality, okay? But if I go down to bathe in Ganga, and I notice that actually I can't step into Ganga because the chain that has been put on the steps to hold on, to keep us from drowning or falling in the water. I notice that that chain has wrapped itself around me. And so even though maybe I'm a very good swimmer, it's a time of year when the water is low and slow, so it's safe to go in. The chain isn't necessary. But the chain accidentally, inadvertently, unknown to me, has wrapped itself around my body or around my leg. Now I want to dive in Ganga. I want to be free. I want to bathe and to swim and to merge into this flowing river. But I can't because this chain has wrapped itself around my leg. Before I can merge fully in the river, I have to get that chain off of my leg. That chain is the symbol, the metaphoric symbol in this example of the patterns that a lot of us are stuck with in our lives. Most of it comes from our childhood. Things that have happened to us, things we experienced. A variety of issues or complexes or neuroses, or it doesn't matter what the word. But they're issues, challenges that we have. Another way to think about those issues is when we were all learning to write, we had these stencil things. They were these big plastic sheets, and you'd put it on top of a piece of paper, and you'd color over the stencil, and when you picked up the stencil, the letter A would be there on the paper. Now, you didn't yet know how to write the A. We were in kindergarten or nursery school. But on the stencil, however you colored on the stencil, it didn't matter, an A would come, because that was the letter already cut out into the stencil. In the same way, a lot of us move through the world with these filters that we see the world. And if I'm holding up the A stencil, that's how I'm going to see the world, as this letter A. If I'm holding up the letter B stencil, that's how I'm going to see the world, the letter B. If I hold up the tube from my toilet paper roll and I see the world like that, the world is going to look very, very round, like a tunnel. Not because the world is round, but because that's how I'm seeing it. And these patterns that we have from our childhood, early in our life, they serve as a chain that wraps itself around us. And when we embark on a spiritual path and we say, I want to melt and to merge in truth, in love, in spirit, in oneness, a lot of times we find ourselves stuck. Something's holding us back. Anger, fear, greed, lust, a sense that I'm not good enough, not pure enough, not divine enough. Maybe a sense that I don't deserve it, that there's something sort of inherently wrong with me. God lives in all, except me. I am that exception to the rule. These are the chains that keep us, even if we sit and we meditate and we pray and we chant. It holds us back from fully having that spiritual experience. And so first you've got to untie the chain. And that's where psychology is really, really, really helpful. It helps us to untie ourselves. First to recognize, to see, to understand the way that it's tied, what type of knot. Is it over from the right first and then under from the left, or over from the left and under from the right? How are you going to untie the knot of that chain? Psychology gives us that vision to see the knot. What's it made of? What is it telling us? Why is it there? What does it look like? It shows us. So we free ourselves through psychology. But that's not enough, because now I've freed myself from the chain, but I'm still just standing there on the steps. I still have to dive in the water. And that's where spirituality takes us. So they work together very, very, very beautifully. If you feel in your life like that river is there, that spiritual flow is there, but something's holding you back, look psychologically. What are the chains? And if you feel like you're kind of chain free, but you're not moving, you're not really going anywhere, you're the same place year after year. Well, you may have freed yourself from the chains, but you're still stuck on the steps. You still have to jump in the water. And that's what spirituality gives us, is that experience, that knowing, that oneness, that merging with the river of life.
Please tell me why a mala includes 108 beads. Why not 100 or 110?
So, the number 108 is considered an auspicious number. There's different numbers for different reasons that have different auspicious qualities. And it's not about being an even number or an odd number or a prime number or a multiple of 10. So it's not about why not 100. In many ways, sure, 100 is a much cleaner number than 108. But 108 is auspicious. That's why the mala has 108. We're not looking at mathematical properties. It's not saying, oh, it's easy to say 100. It's a nice round number. If not 100, 110. If not 110, maybe 150. But we're actually looking at the auspiciousness of the number, such that when you do a round of japa, you've chanted your mantra or God's name an auspicious number of times. The truth is, though, that where love is, that love is what's auspicious. And so sometimes people have just one Rudraksh bead, for example. One sacred Rudraksh bead. Maybe some people don't even have a Rudraksh mala or a Rudraksh bead. No problem. Don't worry. What matters more than the number of beads on the mala is the love that you chant your mantra with. God isn't worried about how many beads are there on your mala. God is worried about whether you're chanting your mantra but making your to-do list in your mind, or you're chanting your mantra deeply with love. I'll tell you a personal piece about me and my japa. So obviously my japmala also has 108 beads, like all of them. But many times with each mala, I actually end up saying my mantra more than 108 times. And the reason is, as you do your mantra, as you chant your japa, naturally the mind wanders sometimes. And of course, as time goes on, the more sadhana you do, the better the mind is at staying still. This is the training of the mind that our spiritual practices give us. You're able to go for a longer period of time without getting distracted. Nonetheless, sometimes it still happens. You get distracted. Mind gets lost in a thought. And for me, what's deeply and most important is that I not take any shortcuts. I'm very, very pakka with myself with regard to all forms of spiritual discipline. And so it's very, very important to me on a personal level that nothing be just for show, or nothing be just for the sake of doing it. It's been very clear to me since the minute I arrived in India almost 25 years ago that God sent me here as an incredible blessing, as an incredible gift, for me to have a powerful, deep, transformative experience, not a superficial one. And so, the mala, the japa, is not about how many malas I did, or just, yet another thing to tick off your to-do list. Brushed your teeth, tick. Had a shower, tick. Did your japa, tick. Not like that. And so for me, as I'm chanting my mantra, if I notice that my mind has wandered, I go back. I figure out approximately how long I think my mind has been off my mala. 1 bead, 2 beads, maybe 5 beads even, if it was wandered for a long time. And I make myself go back and redo them, such that at the end of every mala, it's not I was 80% present or even 90% present or even 95% present, but that I know I was 100% present with every bead of this mala. And on a personal level, that to me feels much more auspicious than just 108. Because as I said, sometimes it could end up being therefore 110 or even 112. In the early days, it probably got close to 200. I mean, it used to take me a really long time to get through a full mala. But what I knew was, by the time I finished that mala, I had done a full 108 with full attention, full focus, full awareness, full connection, full presence. And that's what matters. So more than the number of beads on your mala, focus on the attentiveness of your mind, the focus of your mind. Getting through 4 or 5 malas of 108 beads while you're making lists or you're watching TV. I mean, I've literally sometimes seen people kind of doing their mantra while they're carrying on conversations. And on the one hand, it's nice that, you know, you're still remembering that there is a mala and there is a mantra, and that's great. On the other hand, it's important that we have a time of the day in which it's just the mala. If as you move through the world you also take your mala and you also do your mantra, wonderful. But make sure there's a time of the day that's just your mantra and just your mala. And however much of that you can do in whatever time you have, it only takes one really deep, really powerful, I love you, to be connected. And you could chant, I love you, 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 108 or 216 or however many times you want to chant it. But if it doesn't have any feeling in it, it's not going to get you anywhere. So focus on the feeling. The number's just there to make it even more auspicious for you. But the love is really, really what brings auspiciousness.
Whenever I'm in a situation where I want to be true to myself and I don't listen to myself, I feel very disturbed, frustrated, and disengaged with reality. How can I internally be 100% true to myself?
If this happens a lot, and you know that you're not listening to your own internal voice, you have to ask yourself, what is it I'm listening to more? Which voice am I listening to? If my own internal self is saying north, 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 and I keep going east, 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 but I know that I want to be listening to my internal voice, I have to ask myself, who is shouting east? Or who has convinced me east? Or who is standing in the east saying, come here, come here, come here, come here? What is that other voice? And only then can we really solve this. What is it I'm listening to that I pay more attention to than my own inner voice? Usually it's the ego, fear, desire, laziness, patterns. So for example, the inner voice says, I need to embark more deeply on a spiritual path. I will get up in the morning and meditate. In the morning, the alarm goes off. The laziness within me says, just another 10 minutes. Hit the snooze button. The fear within me says, you're never going to get anything from meditation anyway. You're not worthy. You're not divine. Kuch hone wali nahi hai usme. Again, I hit the snooze button. All sorts of things. The ego comes in and says, Are kya jaruri hai? You're already perfect. Shastra mein bhi aise likha hua hai. The scriptures tell us that also. You are perfect. Why meditate? Let us sleep. So there's all these other voices that are at play. And if I find that day after day I'm not listening to my inner voice, what am I listening to? Or if I find that in the workplace, for example, that maybe I'm working in a company where profits are all that matters. And even though I'm aware that we're exploiting child labor or women in sweatshops, or that we're harming the air, polluting the air or polluting the soil or the water, and my inner voice is saying this isn't right, but I don't listen. and I don't leave the job, or I don't speak up and try to change how business is done, then I have to look and say, what else is speaking in me? Is it my fear of being rejected? Fear of being ridiculed? Fear that they won't like me if I speak my truth? Maybe it's my fear of not having a job. Maybe it's my ego. Whatever it may be. But what voice am I listening to other than my own internal one? And the minute that we realize and recognize that, then whenever that voice comes up, we're able to address it by name. Hey, fear of not having any friends. Don't worry. You have a lot of friends. Or even you have one good friend. That's all you need. Or hey, fear of not having any friends. Do I really want friends who are only my friends by me agreeing to be part of something that goes against everything I believe in? Or hey, fear of being ridiculed. I'm not going to fall apart. I don't need your approval as the glue that holds me together. My own truth is what holds me together. And you just start calling it by name, or in the morning when the alarm goes off and laziness says, just another 10 minutes. I can address it by name. I can say, hey, laziness, you've been running the show a little too long. If you're that tired, get me in bed 15 minutes earlier in the night. Or the fear comes in. I can say, hey, fear of not being good enough. I am going to get enlightened. I am going to discover my true self. Because it's in me. It is me. Every guru, every saint, every sage, every teacher says, I have it in me and I can experience it. Hey, ego, that says I'm already perfect. You're right. On the inner level, I am. That's what I want to get up to meditate, to discover. You can't trick me out of getting out of bed. So figure out what these voices are and then just have a little fun with them. I find that it works really well if we can take ourselves a little bit lightly and just kind of call out all of these different not so functional aspects of us by name. Hey, fear. Hey, anger. Hey, greed. Hey, lust. Hey, not enoughness. Hey, my 5th grade teacher who told me I was stupid and would never be anything. Hey, ego. Call them by name. With a little bit of gentleness. They're not your enemies. But then keep doing what you're going to do. Move them out of the driver's seat of your life. Give them a smile. Acknowledge them. And then lead from that inner voice. And the more you do that, the more that will become your habit. And the less these voices will think that they have the ability to send you in the wrong direction. It's just that we've been listening to their directions for so long that that's become a habit. You know, it's like if you've got a GPS telling you to turn in one direction and you know that's not the right direction. You've driven this road 100 times. But maybe the GPS at that moment lost its data signal. So it's confused. It thinks you were, half a mile back and it's giving you the wrong directions. But how many of us listen to it, even against our own better judgment? And then we laugh later thinking, I knew the way. Why did I listen to this stupid machine? Because we've become so habituated. It says turn right, we turn right. And in the same way, we've become so habituated to the voices of fear of ego, of desire, of all of that we've stopped listening to the inner voice. Just get back in the habit, or get in the habit for the first time. You'll figure it out. It's quite natural. You just have to get in the habit. And slowly, 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 that'll become your habit. That'll become your nature. You'll still have these other voices, but they won't have that power over you. You'll acknowledge them, and then you'll realize that no, you know the way to go. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening, or a beautiful morning or day if you're somewhere in the world where it's the daytime. Have a beautiful Sunday, and we'll see you back on Monday here at the same time for our sunset meditation on the banks of Mother Ganga here at 6:30. So much love to you all from your family here in Rishikesh.
Saviturva